thought you said, how do you know that?
Oh.
If he comes in, or 7 o'clock now, or on the second meeting.
He was right behind you. All right, we will start and Tim will hopefully join. There he is.
Like I said, he was right outside.
Okay. Welcome to the City of Pinole Planning Commission regular meeting for Monday, December 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. There are several ways to watch the meeting. One is in person at the Pinole City Council chambers here at 2131 Paris Street. You can watch it live on channel 26. You can video stream it live on the city's website at www.ci.pinole.ca.us. You can watch it via Zoom video conference, which is via Zoom from a Mac or PC, iPad, iPhone, or Android, https://us02web.zoom.us/j/86505375301, or the webinar ID is 86505375301 through the zoom.us/join website. You can also join us via phone, area code 669-900-6833, or area code 253-215-8782, or area code 346-248-7799. If none of these options are available to you, or you need assistance with any public comment, please contact Planning Manager David Hannum at area code 510-724-8912, or via email at dhanham@ci.pinole.ca.us. All right, first item will be the call to order. So I will be calling this meeting to order. And then I'd like everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. And we'll start with the land acknowledgement. Before we would begin, we would like to acknowledge the Ohlone people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Ohlone elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Ohlone land, the land that Pinole sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Ohlone community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. Planning Manager Hannum, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bender?
Here.
Commissioner Sandoval?
Here.
Commissioner Lam-Julian?
Here.
Commissioner Martinez is absent. Commissioner Banuelos?
Here.
Vice Chair Menes?
Here, noting my usual ex parte communication via email list.
Okay, and Chair Benzuli.
Here.
Let the record show that we have 6 members tonight and we can act on all business that's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Item C, citizens to be heard. The public may address the Planning Commission on items that are within its jurisdiction and not otherwise listed on the agenda. Planning commissioners may discuss the matter brought to their attention, but by state law, Ralph M. Brown Act, action must be deferred to a future meeting. Anyone will be given 5 minutes each. Justin, are there any citizens to be heard this evening?
Yes, Chair. I do see a person with a hand raised online with the phone number ending in 5748.
Okay.
When you're ready, please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name's Anthony, and I'm a longtime citizen, homeowner, taxpayer of Pinole over 40 years. And I'd just like to ask the Planning Commission if there was any thought or idea raised by either the police department or the city council to harden our security, health and safety security for the community and the citizens, primarily in around the two major shopping centers, Fitzgerald Drive Shopping Center and Pinole Valley Trader Joe's Shopping Center. And several people have tried to get and discuss the possibility of employing a temporary substation, if not satellite type station, in one of the vacant properties, commercial properties in and around Fitzgerald Drive. But the city seems to look the other way or want to turn a deaf ear to be proactive with regard to a serious need of protecting not only our public citizens that want to go out there shopping morning, noon, and night, especially during the holiday season, but the commercial business owners as well, with the high increase of property crime, theft, robberies, and other things that go on. Primarily, the majority is on Pinole Valley Road. Case in point, if you look at the police blotter, anytime for whatever week or two that they put up, 3 out of 4, a majority of 60 to 80% of all the items listed on the police blotter, and granted, they don't list everything, however that's chosen, I don't know, that a lot of that crime is going on up and down Fitzgerald Drive. So, and then the response time is kind of willy-nilly. So they either get there too late or they admonish people, they give them a slap on the wrist, and people know they can get in and out of Fitzgerald Drive, ingress, egress, either way without even worrying about the police showing up when they're called, whether it's Target, Lucky Stores, or Beverage and More, or Ultra Beauty Salon, you name it, you know, and it's got to stop, or at least be controlled. And I think a satellite station would do well, if not have police foot patrol there. But they didn't even want to put a pencil to it to see what it would cost. You know, they rather spend the money on $50,000 to $100,000 fireworks shows that they gave to Hercules the last year or two. And that being said, maybe there's something you can do to get a 4 to 6 month trial station over there, satellite station, and or some security cameras, because I think the city of Pinole missed the boat again, because they went out and hired a grant writer, but they didn't get the grant from the state of over $250 million. And it seems that some of the cities, not every other one, but San Ramon and others, they've got anywhere from several million, 3 or 4 to $6-7 million retail crime theft grants from the state of California. And that helped put another officer on the street, or maybe foot patrol that we could use up and down Fitzgerald Drive, if not a satellite station, which San Ramon has, and they got another police vehicle to take care of that. Also, I would like to know what the status is on the caretaker's house that's been put off for years now, if not months, and they're supposed to get back to the public on that. What's the status of the new owner in and around the old Pinole Animal Shelter, which is the Fix-It Farrell? They also, I understand, sold out to another commercial company like Safeway did, and it's still vacant with signs up that say Fix-It Farrell. And also the lighting that one of the commissioners, as well as myself and others, wanted them to address. I thought they fixed the lighting on Pinole Valley Road by the shopping center, but the lights were out again today at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, when it was dark, up and down Pinole Valley Shopping Center Road, that the late great Dean Allison went the extra mile to get installed on Pinole Valley Road, as well as some other lights in the city. And also the fire trail crossbar at 74-16 by Wright Avenue, just past Wright Avenue on Pinole Valley Road. It's being used as a giant dumpster bin for some ingots there, and it's
Thank you,
being
sir.
littered with a lot of rubbish and dumpsters and
Okay.
all kinds of things.
Thank you.
there,
You're
which is
kind of hitting the
ice wall
5-minute
that
mark,
needs to
sir.
be cleaned up, and that joins to the Adobe
Thank
Trail
you.
there.
Thank you, sir. Sir, sorry. You've
7416.
gone past your
Chief
5 minutes.
Broussard knows about this
Okay.
as well as.
Cool. So thank you very much, sir, for your comments. I do want to keep us within the 5 minutes, and you kind of want to. I did get you go a little bit over there. Couple of things I did hear: the security of the shopping districts. I think that's a little bit outside of our purview necessarily, but obviously something maybe it's a way to raise it. City council on adding more police presence there.
It is outside our realm.
Yeah,
That's not our privy.
but I definitely encourage you to take that to the city council. The caretaker's house. I'm not sure what that is.
That's over off of Adobe Road out by the Pinole Valley Park.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, right now it's not being used. However, the city council has to decide what they want to do with that. Again, that's a city council item that they're going to have to choose to what they're going to do with that facility.
And I know the animal shelter. I think we've heard from them before. That's also city council.
Yeah, that's all city council. Until there's a project, until there's something on the books, or they're actually proposing to do something. I mean, we might still not be involved, but at least if there is something that comes to that would require to come to the planning commission, then it would come at that time. But right now, there's nothing that I know of that's happening with the caretaker's house.
Okay. And then both the Pinole Valley lighting and if sounds like there's refuse on one of the fire trails.
Yeah, we've been talking to Joe Bingaman about the lights. He's taking a look at it to see whose lights they are, if they're ours, if they're PG&E's. They have been having some issues with those, getting the timing straight. So they are working on it. So it's just a matter of getting it worked out. So on the ones that we know that are ours, but they're continuing to work on those. And regarding the fire trail, Sanjay's been out for a couple weeks, and so he's got the most current data on what's happening there. So he gets back on Wednesday, the 13th. So I'll be talking to him. He's been out for the last couple weeks.
Okay, great, thank you. Justin, are there any other citizens to be heard?
No, not this time.
Okay, thank you, and we'll conclude that item agenda. The next item on the agenda is D, meeting minutes, the Planning Commission meeting. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Vice Chair
Hi.
Menace.
Just a brief point about the cameras. The city already has access to several surveillance cameras in the Fitzgerald area. I know that there was a presentation made to the city council on that topic when the police department was going over its surveillance capabilities. I don't recall the exact date of that meeting, but I'd suggest searching for that information if you want more information on the city's current camera implementation in the Fitzgerald area, because the city does have some cameras there and has access to others through the fiber network. And that's been discussed.
Thank you. Thank you. That regard to the security. Okay. Cool. Anybody else have any further comments? Cool. Item D, the meeting minutes, the Planning Commission meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Vice Chair Menace?
Yep, just a very minor typographical amendment. On page number 6, line 36, it says Commissioner Banuelos cited the Burker King with a K and Burker. That should be a G. Otherwise, nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Sandoval, Julian, sorry.
Again, just a typo. Page 8, line 11, it's interact, not interactive.
What was that page? Page 8, line 8?
Page 8, line 11, so the typo would be, it should be interact club and not interactive. Thank you.
Vice Chair Menace, where was the Burger King?
Right, Burger King should be spelled with a G, not a K. And
Well,
it's on page 6, line 36.
Commissioner Sandoval, anything? Commissioner Bender?
Nothing.
Commissioner Banuelos? No. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes with the exception of the two typographical errors, page 6, line 36, and page 8, line 11?
I'll make that motion with those modifications.
Great.
I'll second.
Please roll call, please.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb-Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanuelos,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menes,
Yes.
Chair Benzuli.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Great, thank you. We'll now move on to item E, public hearings. We only have one item on the agenda tonight, the conditional use permit, CUP 23-04, the Anabi Shell Station. Anabi, am I pronouncing that right? Anabi Shell Station, an alcohol sales use permit. The request is the consideration of a use permit request to allow the sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption under a Type 20 license at the Anabi Shell Station, 1401 Fitzgerald Drive. The project qualifies for a CEQA exemption under CEQA Guidelines 15301. The applicant is Anabi Shell. It's at 1401 Fitzgerald Drive, Pinole, California 94564. The location is 1401 Fitzgerald Drive. IP number 426-080-036. And the staff is David Hannum. Is there a...
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to start off the report, the applicant is requesting, again, approval of a conditional use permit to allow the Anabi Shell to sell beer and wine at their location at 1401 Fitzgerald Drive. So basically what we're looking at is, as part of the site location in your staff report, we've outlined where the site is on Fitzgerald, which is adjacent to, looks like Applebee's and Round Table in terms of on Fitzgerald. It has retail commercial to the north of the property. To the west of the property is I-80. To the south of the property is retail commercial, which is the Applebee's and Outback Steakhouse, as well as to the east, retail commercial, which is the Pinole, the Target and Pinole Vista Crossings Shopping Center. The project, again, is to sell beer and wine, which is a Type 20 license for off-site consumption. The Shell Station has been operating at 1401 Fitzgerald since 2007. The business has 12 fueling stations, a convenience store, and a car wash. The property is approximately 31,980 square feet. The convenience store is approximately 2,667 square feet. The convenience store is open 24 hours and is staffed from 1 to 5 employees on approximately 3 to 4 shifts, depending on the needs of the business. As part of the analysis of the project, to supplement the offerings provided as a part of the business operations, Anabi Shell has applied for the Type 20 alcohol license through the Department of Alcohol, Beverage, and Control, ABC. The Type 20 license allows sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption. Section 17.20.080 of the Pinole Municipal Code requires review and approval of a conditional use permit for alcohol sales. As part of the review process, the PMC 17.59030 prescribes the review process which is required before the opening of a new business, extending the hours of operation of any establishment that sells or serves any alcoholic beverages, or adding the capacity to floor area or shelf space devoted to alcohol beverages of any establishment that sells or serves any alcoholic beverages. So, for example, what that means is like for grocery outlet a couple of years ago, they had the ability to sell beer and wine. They came back to the commission to sell spirits, as well as also expand the area of which they were to sell. So they included about an additional like 20 to 30 square feet or shelf space, basically 2 or 3 additional shelves within their business to do that. So in this case, the Anabi's looking to use their existing coolers they have for beer and wine, which is described as a site plan that is described in your packets. As part of the 17.59, there are findings that are needed to be found, basically. So, in terms of the conditional use permit, the Planning Commission shall review all conditional use permit requests for proposed alcohol sales, and then the following information must be provided to approve the use permit request. Number one, again, is to list all the establishments within a 1,000-foot radius, similar size and array of products. If there is any other establishment other than food service establishments within the incidental service or beer and or wine within 1,000 feet of the radius of the site of the proposed use that is in the same category of the alcoholic beverage sales or service, that the city of Pinole shall not approve the application unless it makes all the following findings of public convenience or necessity. And of course, the city council on this, at their meeting of September 7th, 2023, approved a resolution that allowed for they made the findings of public necessity for an Shell at 1401 Fitzgerald. The number of businesses having authority to sell alcoholic beverages in the census tract, and of course, the ABC stated there was an overconcentration. The council approved the notice of approves the determination of public convenience and necessity, and that satisfies through ABC to allow them to provide a license for alcohol sales where there's an overconcentration in the census tract. The extent to which crime reporting district is in which applicant is located exceeds the average for crime reporting districts subject to the jurisdiction of the Pinole Police Department. Staff or the police department very early in this process stated that in terms of crime on this side, even though Fitzgerald has a history of having crime on this side of the street, it's been very quiet. So in terms of the 5 parcels that I call the 5 parcels that are across the street from the Target Center and have not had any say or they haven't had any problems with this location or many of the other locations along this side of the street, Fitzgerald Drive. In terms of the proximity of the applicant to school parks and playgrounds, recreation centers, the area that this project is in is mostly commercial. There is not a school within 1,000 feet, not even the junior high school that's sitting up on the hill behind the Target Shopping Center. That's well beyond the 1,000 feet. And so this is, again, this would be an area that it would be convenient because it is within a commercial area. There are basically 5 establishments located at Fitzgerald Drive which have off-site licenses, which are Target, Bevmo, Lucky Grocery, Food Max, and Pinole Vista Liquors. Nobby Shell is a gas station and convenience store that provides small merchandise items, establishment in a commercial area, and is not near any school parks or any public facilities. In terms of B, which is the public convenience and necessity, which is a determination that's required by our code, and ABC, if there's an overconcentration of alcohol within the census tract. Again, as stated before, November 7th, 2023, the City Council approved a determination of public convenience or necessity. This determination allows an additional off-site alcohol sales license in Census Tract 3630. Currently, there are 11 off-site alcohol sales licenses with five licenses in Pinole. In your table, table 1, there's about 11. There is about 11, but a lot of those are outside the city limits. And the difference between a 20 and 21 license is that the 21 includes distilled spirits, so for off-site consumption. So the 20s are all just beer and wine. So in terms of this application, that's all they're asking for at this time, to sell beer and wine. Other criteria come under the consideration when reviewing the application for the use permits, whether or not the proposed establishment will promote the city's economic health, contribute to the general plan, area plan, policies, or other further purposes. I mean, basically, the applicant proposed to continue 24 hours a day in its 2,600 square foot retail space, though beer and wine will be limited to the hours permitted by the state and local law, which is 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. The total square footage of the property is 31,000 square feet with 6 on-site parking spaces, which include 1 ADA compliant space, and there are also 12 gasoline pumps vehicle spaces. The 6 spaces are consistent with the parking ordinance that when the building was originally approved back in 2006, 2007 when it was built. The Shell service station and convenience store is located within the Pinole Vista development area in a zone regional commercial zone. This property is not within the 3 corridor specific plan, and so the general plan land use element states that the regional commercial areas are intended for large regional shopping centers serving the West County and market area. Pinole Vista is an adjacent Pinole Vista is adjacent to the I-80. This should be Pinole Vista crossing I-80 and off-ramps, and contains several large retailers such as Ace and Target. Smaller ancillary uses include, but are not limited to, restaurants, various retail stores, and other personal services, commercial services within a single area, convenient to both the freeway and local traffic. The proposed use enhances the commercial nature of the Pinole Vista developments and would increase the range of services available to local customers, workers, and residents. The sale of beer and wine expands the available services in the Pinole Vista area generally, and at this location specifically, and will broaden the city's tax bases by generating sales tax revenue at this retail business location. The additional alcohol at this subject site would increase the economic health of Pinole by supplying additional one-stop shopping convenience in both residents and travelers along I-80. The site is located at a commercial location containing numerous retail restaurants and commercial service offerings that is patronized by large numbers of residents and visitors. The applicant's customers consist of residents in this and surrounding areas, employees and customers of the many commercial uses in the vicinity, and who are traveling down a major thoroughfare. The requested finding of public convenience or necessity, along with the CUP and ABC license to sell beer and wine for off-site consumption in an existing gas station, mini mart, and enable existing customers to conveniently purchase these items rather than taking their business to another gas station or mini mart in the greater area. Also, it is consistent with goal LU7 of the land use and economic development element, and calls for encouraging commercial development which provides services for residents and broadens the tax base of the community to provide needed revenue for public services. In terms of the economic benefit associated with the establishment could not be reasonably achieved without the proposed alcohol sales. Staff's response is that the applicant has successfully operated their gas station and convenience store for years in the Pinole community. It is their belief that while the Pinole Vista and Pinole Vista Crossings developments do an excellent job of catering to the needs of the community, there is a niche which a full-service convenience store that also stocks beer and wine could fill. There are no convenience stores in the area which offer alcohol. The current vendors that are large stores such as Target or Bevmo. The closest convenience or gas station store which is currently licensed for alcohol sales is on Appian Way in the unincorporated area of El Sobrante, which is a 2-mile drive away from, basically per Google Maps. The shoppers who visit the large retailers in the Pinole Vista commercial developments are often extended shopping trips, purchasing a wide range of items at once. Additionally, shopping at similar locations may take longer than individuals in a hurry would prefer to spend. A full-service convenience store at a well-established gas station enables quick trip access to a wide range of groceries, beverage, and utility goods, and captures businesses that might otherwise pass for the area. As there are other gas stations within the city and just outside the city limits that are able to sell alcoholic beverages, this Shell station cannot obtain the economic benefits that its competitors enjoy without the ability to sell a small amount of beer and wine. And finding number 3, the applicant has not operated a licensed establishment which has been the subject of verified complaints, violations regarding alcohol, public safety, or nuisance statutes. Over the years, this applicant has operated approximately 14 ABC licensed locations, the actual owner, and none of them have been subject to verified complaints or violations regarding alcohol, public safety, or nuisance statutes or regulations. The applicant is dedicated in being a good corporate neighbor and will happily work with both local and state authorities to ensure that all regulations and laws are obeyed and its business is conducted in a peaceful and beneficial way. The police department has reported that the proposed establishment would not be expected to add crime to the area. And staff's response is basically the city scholars have reviewed the proposed business plans and related statements and has not raised any objections to not be selling beer and wine for off-site consumption at this location. The extent, finding 6 or 5, the extent to which products offer other than alcoholic beverages are sold by the applicant and the extent to which alcoholic beverages are incidental to the other products. The site provides a variety of goods and services that customers at a full-service station and convenience store would expect, including basic grocery items, snacks, beverages, basic utility, automotive, household, and dry goods, and, of course, fuel. The sale of alcoholic beverages will make this location a convenient one-stop shop, enabling the surrounding community to purchase everyday essential groceries and utilities items, including alcoholic beverages, at the same time. The primary use of this site is an automotive service station and convenience store, of which alcohol sales will be a small portion, both in terms of floor area and shelf space. The alcohol sales are being provided as a convenience to the customers so that they may purchase all of their shopping needs at one time and in one trip. The project will be beneficial to the local community and the local economy by enhancing a revenue-generating use which has faithfully served the development for years. So those are the findings from the Public Convenience and the Alcohol Sales chapter. Under 17.712, it's under the entitlements. The conditional use permit has additional findings that has to be made. Staff has talked about whether this project is consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plans and all applicable provisions of this title. The subject property is consistent with the general plan and specific zoning of the Pinole Municipal Code pursuant to Muni Code 17.20020. The applicant submits this conditional use permit. Application requests approval for the sale of beer and wine in conjunction with the existing sales service station at 141 Fitzgerald Drive. The site is an existing service station, car wash, and convenience store operating 24 hours a day and is located next to the Interstate 80 in the Regional Commercial Zone District. The subject property is a commercial use within the areas for general commercial land uses. The proposed alcohol sales hours would be from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. as allowed by the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. There are no changes being requested with this application to the premises footprint or the current operations other than the applicant's request to add the incidental sale of beer and wine. Staff feels that this finding has been met. The establishment, maintenance, and operation of the use applied will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, location, size, design, operating characteristics, be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the neighborhood or such use to the general welfare of the city. Staff's response is that the proposed use will not adversely affect the welfare of the pertinent community because, as stated above, the premise has continuously been operated as a gas station, car wash, and convenience store for many years. This is an existing business that provides mostly goods and services that have come to that people have come to expect from a national service station and convenience market. The request is to add a small amount of beer and wine inventory to the existing groceries. So that it would better serve its customers and diminish the need of customers to travel to other locations. The subject property is a commercial use neighborhood, and that the business has been a longstanding anchor in the shopping center, and the applicant will continue to operate and improve the store with this goal. Number 3, the site of the proposed use is physically suitable for the type of density and intensity for the use and related structures being proposed. Currently, the site of the use is physically suitable for the requested addition of the ancillary amount of beer and wine sales for off-site consumption. The applicant already owns and operates a convenience store on the property, which carries a wide range of groceries and utility items. The sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption, while incidental to the overall goods and services provided the sales station, is an important aspect, maintaining the ability to act as a full-service convenience store. Convenience store occupies a footprint of 2,776 square feet, and the entire property encompassing the convenience store and service station at 31,980 square feet. The proposed addition of beer and wine would not physically impact the site at all and would only represent an addition of some items to the store's already existing shelves and coolers. The continued operation of the store will, with strict adherence to the imposed conditions, proper management, and supervision, will continue to provide a retail service that is beneficial, convenient, and necessary for the community. As a result, the proposed use will not require physical alterations of the applicant's property. No additional construction is proposed at this time, or the addition, I should say, and or the additional like coolers and additional. There's nothing of that nature. Everything is within the existing confines of the convenience store. As part of the conditions of approval, staff has worked with the community preservation team and the police department to impose appropriate conditions for alcohol sales. The police department required that the standard alcohol conditions listed as part of 17.59040 be included for this project request. The standard conditional use permit alcohol sales conditions are included in Exhibit A in Resolution 2309, which is see Attachment A. And then basically what I did is I listed the applicable standard conditions as part of the code. So all of those conditions will be imposed as part of the conditions of approval in Exhibit A. In addition to the conditions mentioned above, staff has included within Exhibit A of the proposed Resolution 2309, security-related conditions of approval, calling for updating a business emergency information form and holding an on-site training event with the police department prior to the commencement of alcohol sales. These security-related conditions have been discussed with the applicant, and the applicant has no objections, at least at this point. The applicant's project is categorically exempt per Section 15301, existing facilities of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, that consist of no physical expansion of existing businesses within an existing commercial building. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 23-09, approving the conditional use permit 2304, which allows for the permit which permits the sale of beer and wine subject to the conditions of approval of attachment A. That ends staff's report. If you have any questions or need any clarifications, I'll be happy to answer those at this time. And the applicant is here to discuss it when we get to the public hearing portion of the project.
Great. Thank you, Planning Manager Hannah. Does anyone, questions of staff? Vice Chair Menace.
Thank you. I have a few questions of staff. First, I know the police department said that they're relatively speaking approving of this project given the various conditions they want to impose on it. But I'm wondering whether there are basically past instances like this where a gas station has said, hey, we want to add alcohol, then they add alcohol, and what the outcomes were with that, if the city has any data on that. They may not, in which case can't really answer that question, but figured I'd raise that as sort of an inquiry. Secondly, I'm a little bit confused about the last condition, condition number 28. Make attempts to limit alcohol-related problems which negatively impact those living or working in the neighborhood. This seems a bit vaguer than our usual conditions of approval, which, like have a complaint response community relations program, pay telephones, only allow outgoing calls. That's relatively concrete.
Right.
Make attempts to limit, like how many attempts, to what level of difficulty does the attempt need to incur, what problems are expected, like this condition seems odd, and I'd like it to be explained further.
Well, pretty much. I mean, in terms of what could happen, I mean, with the sale of beer and wine, even though you can't sell alcohol within the hours of 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., there will be people that will probably come in and want to try to buy beer and wine. Because the store is open 24 hours. So they're going to make attempts to, if there are problems that would negatively impact, whether they would need to call the police or whether they have a plan in place that would, whether they have staff members on hand to be able to talk to some of these people. So basically we're just asking them to make an attempt to, if problems arise between, I mean, in most cases, it's going to be after midnight to 2, and then are going to be the main issues, and then maybe a little bit between 2 and 6. But that they just make attempts. They make attempts that if there's stuff that is negatively impacting, that they work on bringing it to a better outcome. So without having to come to us right away. I mean, we're going to get, if we get complaints and we get more and more complaints, either from PD or from the citizenry saying that, this place is always a mess now, it's, then we can always bring that back and have you reviewed. And as part of this condition, we can always say that there were no attempts for alcohol-related problems with negatively impacted those, that you haven't done that portion of the project. So it's mainly it's a condition that we put on the businesses to make sure that they are taking care of issues that could arise. Or, for example, if they have a person come in, they can't buy the beer, they go out and try to spill all the garbage on the road because they're mad. To make sure that they have things in place that would that they'd get that cleaned up so that it wouldn't be impactful to the rest of the shopping areas. So, or at least on their side of the street, it's more of the restaurants and that. So that's kind of what that condition is for. It's an overarching condition just to make sure to let them know that you guys need to make sure that you can to make sure you attempt that if there are any issues, that you're taking care of any issues regarding the selling of alcohol. So, does that kind of answer your question, or is that?
Mostly, but I guess
Okay.
there's a sub-question sort of linked to that.
Okay.
Because, and this might be a question more for the city attorney's office, but it says make attempts, but like, what if there's a disagreement over how far the attempts went? Like they said, we put up a sign saying, don't do this.
Right.
Is that enough of an attempt, or do they need to have a certain level of staffing, or do they need to do a certain kind of training? Like, is it make the best possible attempt? Does it make any attempt? Does it make some number? Or is it just make an attempt, any attempt at all, and then it's good enough?
I'm gonna probably turn that over to Erica, but I'm gonna try to answer, and then and then correct me if I'm overstepping or understepping on this one. But pretty much, I mean, I think it's just it's one of those where we're just asking them to make an attempt. They do have cameras on the site. They do have those types of things that police could access. So if we see them trying to make attempts or attempt to clean up problems that are issues because of this, then the commission I'll be able to, write the staff report. If there's an issue where we've got to come back to you and say, we got to change the hours. We have to stop selling after midnight because we're having problems between 12 and 2, or that the issues are arising that this is just a mess all day long and that we need to revoke the permit. Then I would come in and say, well, based on their attempts, they haven't been able to keep it under control. Or they haven't attempted anything at all to try to correct the issues whatsoever. In terms of just this condition, I mean, there's probably going to be other conditions that are going to be in play as part of if we were to come back in and revoke it later, or reduce operating hours for the alcohol sales, or something of that nature. So, I'm just saying that It's more of just, I mean, if you want to add 3 attempts or 4 attempts or 2 attempts, I think they can. But
Yeah, maybe I can shed a little light. Thank you, David and Vice Chair Menace. I think that what you're getting to is that make attempts might be broad, maybe perhaps too broad, or that might be a concern of yours. What staff needs to do in this condition is provide enough direction to the applicant or permit holder to know what their responsibilities are, and be clear enough to provide staff the ability to enforce or seek further review if there is a failure to comply with the conditions of the permit. I know we have reviewed this, and I do think that there does leave some room for interpretation. I think that you are correct in pointing that out in terms of how many attempts. But given that there are multiple conditions that might apply here, I think it's a really difficult term to kind of make a bright line rule, perhaps. I think it's sufficient for the purpose of this permit. I will also point out that the conditions that are allowable are set forth, the standard conditions under the code. Any additional conditions that are set on the permit have to be related, have to be some sort of a relation to the PCN determination, right? The city's ultimate goal. So long as this condition makes that appropriate link between I always get this term correct, the public convenience or necessity factors, then it's a sufficient condition. Please let me know if you need further clarification.
I think that clarifies it a bit. So basically, the important thing is that both staff and the applicant understand what the condition means, even if it's not necessarily iron tight. And if there's a dispute, it can fall back on the other conditions.
Yes, I would agree. And because this is intended to be broad to relate to several types of, negative impacts that might be associated with a property, this is the best way to have a condition on the property without making a bright line rule for every and only limited impacts that might affect the property.
All right, that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
You're good with the writing as it is, no modifications?
If staff is fine with the writing as it is, I'm fine with leaving it.
yeah, staff's okay with it. I concur with the city attorney.
Commissioner Bender?
Yeah, I have one question. I'm kind of curious, does staff know what formula the ABC uses to determine this, an overconcentration of the off-sale alcohol licenses in the census tract?
Yeah, it's over 5. So once you've reached 5 licenses, then anything over that becomes a overdue in concentration, or an over concentration of the census tract.
Thank you.
Commissioner Benuelos?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with Commissioner Menace. It says it does appear that there are other conditions that are interrelated within this that would sort of support the generality of that remaining condition he was talking about. Talks about having a program to educate the employees. Employees have to be over 21 if they're working during certain period of times. So it does appear that there's interrelated conditions that would take care of that, or at least relieve some of the generality. I just wanted to make that comment in terms of that. Does the future Valero 7-Eleven have a similar beer and wine license?
I think at this point they do not have a beer and wine license. I think they could potentially come back for a license as well, but I don't think they have one at this point. I'd have to check. I'm not positive. They weren't on the list. And they could be in a different census tract, as they do have one.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So
I think they are.
Yeah, just across the census tract kind of breaks right in that area, because when we did the one for because actually I think the other side of the street is a different census tract, because when we did grocery outlet, it didn't include anything on the west side. It was all the projects near Pinole Vista with Lucky's and kind of the same stores, but there were some additional ones that were a little farther out. So
Is it in the same one as the CVS?
I'm not sure.
Maybe?
I'm not sure.
Then it would be the
It
only
could
one
be,
under
but I'm
concentrated.
not positive on that.
Okay.
But the lines get pretty. It's 3630, and then there's 3630.45 that's right around that same area. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, it always seems that, it's pretty easy to concentrate, but it's also, there are provisions available to, alleviate the concentration just because of the necessity thing.
Right.
I remember this has come up before. When I was on the city council, this came up and it was turned down. And it's been a while since I have to kind of think about why it was turned down. I think there was some concern about people popping into the mini mart there, grabbing something and jumping back on the freeway.
Right.
But you can get that anywhere. I mean,
Right.
that's in fact at that time there was a sort of a supposition of what if the Valero added a mini mart, and
Right.
are they in the same boat? And there was
Yeah.
like a speculation of that, but even before that project was even alive.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is 7 or 8 years ago. So, I think that that in terms of what the conditions that have been generated now, that the time has gone by, and I think the time is it's significantly more than it was at the time that it was brought up, and I'm thinking it was like 2016 or 2017, right around in there when that happened the first time. But it seems to me that some of the lack of things happening since then
Right.
would tend to support a different conclusion at this point.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
You're good?
yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Lam Julian?
Thank you, Chair Benzuli. Questions for staff? I noticed, what is the matrix for the formal review by the police department on how they're doing the crime reporting for that area, or just in general? Is it just a matrix? How to go ahead and clarify that?
Yeah, I mean, they usually, when we send them over projects such as this, what they do is they look at their crime data. And mainly it's for robberies and burglaries and those types of crimes in that area, because that would be the primary crime in those areas. And if they feel that this use wouldn't add to that or wouldn't significantly add to that, then they come back to me and say, yeah, this use is okay to move forward. So I don't know what they do. I don't know what their exact, how they go through and deliver all their statistics, but when we send it, when we send it out to them, then they go in, they review, so they probably review all the crime data that's in that area, and then report back to us whether or not they feel that this use would be, approved or should be approved or denied based on that. But I don't know what goes into their matrices in terms of doing crime. I'm assuming they use burglaries and robberies and those types of things, but that's just an assumption that I'm not quite sure how. I'm not sure what how they do that, but that's what I'm assuming they do.
Okay, I was just wondering if we can request what that matrix is, so then we have a better understanding of what's not high or what's reasonable or low.
Okay, yeah, I can ask the commanders just to see what they do. I can ask them about their matrix and about how they go about reviewing the alcohol permits.
Okay, and then next question is sales tax revenue. How much are we looking at? What is the anticipated revenue that they're going to generate from
Well,
this?
I think from a sales tax revenue standpoint, I mean, it'll be probably an increased bump in terms of the business and what they do. I mean, is it going to be $300,000 or $400,000 a year to the city? No, but it'll be an incremental. It'll probably be some small incremental increase to the city, based on what that store already brings to the city. So, like I said, it's just it probably will raise the sales tax, but I mean, it's not going to be that significant in terms of where you can see it. But they will, as the business will see it, revenues come up and that. So, but in terms of sales tax, I mean, we only get 1%. So it's, unless they sell a lot of beer and a lot of wine, will we see a major influx in sales tax dollars. But we should see some increase, but it'll be fairly small.
To clarify, so the city only gets 1% of the sales tax revenue from the liquor sale or the beer and wine sales?
That's just sales tax in general. So there's no additional sales tax. There's no additional tax. So whatever sales tax is driven by the purchase, that's what we'll get. So if, for example, and this is just an example, if we received $1,000 right now from the store and they now include beer and wine, it increases their sales by 1%, then we would get $1,001 or $1,000. You would see it that way through the sales tax, not necessarily through the increase in sales. You wouldn't really see it this is the alcohol that's generating it. You would see just the generation of sales from the store going up, and then we would see additional dollars that way.
Okay. Can I ask the developer if he could?
I think we should do all the staff questions.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll do all the questions then.
okay. I'm complete. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Sandoval?
No questions at this time. All my questions have been asked by other commissioners or answered by staff.
Okay. I have two quick questions. One, is there a difference between the Type 20 or Type 21 license?
Yes. Yeah, Type 20 is allowing for beer and wine off-site consumption. The 21 is the adding of distilled spirits.
Okay.
So, and they're not asking for that at this time.
Okay. If they did, would they have to come back for a new conditional use permit
Yes.
changing the license type?
Yes, they would, as to change the license type, they would have to do another public convenience necessity in front of the council, and then there would be a modification of the conditional use permit that they have here. If you approve, there'd be a modification of this permit to allow them to sell distilled spirits.
Okay, thank you. And several of the conditional use approval items are, like signage, additional training, that kind of thing. It's not necessarily, it's more, is there a back check process where someone, or there's a timing like, hey, within, 90 days, they have to have certain signage posted, they have to have a training log? Is there anything in the conditional use that says there's a timing on this stuff or a means to back check that they're compliant?
We do a fact check to their compliance. So we don't, I think there is in condition, I think they do have 90 days to, all staff within 90 days of employment shall receive the responsive service training. So in 90 days, staff will go back and see if they've completed all the training. If they haven't, then we'll basically say whoever's in there whoever hasn't completed their training cannot be there to sell alcohol.
Right, I'm also thinking of, where was it? The one with the police department about the, number 14, establish and maintain a compliant response community relations program with the police department. Is that, it's ongoing, is there, which is fine, but is there a certain timeline that the city expects it to be done, or at least the initial round be done with, or?
Well, the police, there's a condition that they have to go through some training with the police department. So for the sailing, so the police department will regulate that, and then they'll check it periodically.
Okay, same thing with signage that comes through?
Signage comes through community development, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Vice Chair Menace?
Yep, I actually have a couple of follow-up questions which follow on that one. First up, condition number 27 talks about all employees receiving responsible beverage service training, but it doesn't give a time frame. So for new employees that are hired, would we need to attach to the condition training needs to be completed within X days of hire or X days of the employee, or is that just sort of assumed?
Is that the 90-day one? Which number is that?
Condition number 27 on page 4 of the conditions of approval.
Yeah, but condition number 7, basically, responsible beverage service training. So they have 90 days. An employee has 90 days from the time they're hired to complete the process.
So that's basically defined in state law, and it doesn't need to be included in a condition.
It is included in the conditions. Condition number 7 states that they have 90 days to do this, complete this training.
I think presumably active employees, it's 90 days from the start, and then if you have a new employee, it's 90 days from whenever they start.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just a bit confused by the difference between condition 7 and condition 27 there.
Well, 27 is also saying that they shall receive responsible training, and any employee on duty between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. will at least be the age of 21. So it's kind of like not only do they have to have the training, but they also have to be over 21 to sell between 10 and 2.
And condition 7 covers the timing of the training, even though it's not explicitly mentioned in 27.
Yes.
Okay. And then my second.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my second question was with our findings. Finding number 2, which says, the established maintenance or operation of the use applied for will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, or general welfare of persons residing or working in a neighborhood of such use or to the general welfare of the city. And what I'm wondering is how strict that definition is. Are we allowed to say, is it a net negative? Or are we required to say there's no negative impact at all? Because this is another one that seems a bit vague, but it's a finding, so we have to formally make it.
Commissioner Mess, which page are you on?
Page 7 of the staff memo.
Okay, finding number 2 under the conditional use permit. That's the one you're talking about?
Right.
Okay, so in terms of our response on page 8, right? It's again, the proposed use will not adversely affect the welfare of pertinent commonly as stated above. The premise has continuously been operated as a gas station. Subject property is in a commercial use, so I'm not quite sure where. I mean, are you just talking about the finding is vague in general, or?
I'm talking about, the staff response talks about basically the benefits that this application basically would generate to the community, better serve the needs of the customers, allow grocery inventory to better serve the needs of customers, diminish the need for customers to travel, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But it doesn't really address the detrimental to, et cetera, detrimental to health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, or general welfare line. So I'm wondering, is simply finding that whatever negative impacts there are will be mitigated by the conditions of approval, and so there'll be no net negative impact enough to meet that finding? Or is that finally only met if there are no negative impacts at all?
No, it's a general, it's a general, because we're not sure what it's going to do we're not quite, until the use gets put in place, we're not sure what type of effect it's going to have. So it's got to be a little bit broad to allow for that. We're assuming that based with the conditions of approval, based on that the use will be not detrimental to because they're going to follow all the conditions. They're going to make sure that the business is doing what it's supposed to be doing. The employees are supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it would have no negligible impact. So it's not where the finding isn't where that, okay, yes, it's not going to do this impact, not going to do this impact, it's not going to have this impact. We're not sure what's going to happen until it starts happening. We're assuming based on their project description and what they're describing, based on what we are describing in terms of conditions of approval to make sure state laws are being followed, and that it wouldn't be a detrimental use to the community. Now, if it does, then at which point we would bring that back to the commission for either a revocation of permit, or we would be given warnings to the applicant to say, hey, we have some negative impacts. We're starting to see that this business isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's not abiding by the conditions, at which point then it would come back to the commission for a revocation. So they are going to be general in nature, at least at this point, and usually the conditions of approval allow for that they've got to follow those conditions of approval to allow them to operate. And then if they're not, then we can make the finding that they weren't. They did have negative impacts, and that it would, and then we would state why and what conditions they're violating, and going through that measure. So, unless you want something stated that is in the finding that you want to say that per the conditions of approval that were approved on, December 11th, that this will not cause any detrimental, or that we're hoping that it won't, but so it needs to be, at least in staff's perspective, it needs to be a little more general, because we are saying that with the conditions of approval that this business is going to operate in a positive manner within the community. Until it doesn't, and then we can act at that point.
Sure. So I guess my question is does sort of the circumstances of the particular case understood to include the conditions of approval without needing to explicitly state that?
I would say that, if you want to add that statement in, we can add that statement in as part of our finding. Yes. If you want to make it a little more, and I'll maybe refer to the attorney at this point in terms of the finding, would it be, I guess my question to you would be it be able to include something like that with the conditions of approval, or just use it more as a general, assuming that the conditions of approval will be approved with the project?
If the commissioners find that the findings cannot be made because they are too broad, or staff has not met that burden, that could be a basis for denial. If the commission would like to amend the conditions to address or somehow correct the inability to make this finding in order to pass or approve today, then the commission can do so. But I don't think that we can make the purpose today is to make the findings. So we couldn't approve it with the condition upon a future finding. The finding has to be made today.
Right, but if the finding is, if the commission feels that finding, or I guess, are you saying that finding is not being met?
I guess I'm saying that the conditions are what justifies that finding, but I'm not sure what the relationship is between the finding and the conditions within the resolution, because the resolution seems to be, there's a resolution, there's a separate exhibit, and there's findings. But I guess it says subject to the conditions of approval attached as Exhibit A. I don't know, maybe I'm just being unduly autistic about this.
The findings that need to be made are set forth in the municipal code. That's 17.59.030, which David spoke to earlier. Those are the findings in subsection C, that the proposed establishment will promote the city's economic health, economic benefits, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, that the findings don't say it's not negative. Like it's showing it's a positive, but it's not showing that it's negative, right? So then you looking to the conditions of approval to support well, if it becomes negative, then what, right? Because you've always said such as findings that suggest it's positive, but I think that's the nature of the conditions of approval, is that that's established the boundaries by which the negative could develop, basically.
I mean, what I really wanted was just reassurance that circumstances of the particular case included the conditions of approval once we approved them.
Well, I would think so, yeah.
Okay, then if that's the case, then that's sufficient for me.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions of staff? Cool. Okay, if there are no further questions, we can now open the public hearing and ask the applicant if they wish to make a presentation. Mike's not on.
Testing?
You are.
Okay. Good evening, Bruce Evans for Anabi Shell. I'd like to start by thanking the planning department for their hard work on the case. You've heard detailed information about the staff report. There's nothing that I can offer new that's not already well stated in the staff report, so I'm not going to make a lengthy presentation. I will say we are very grateful for the positive recommendation of staff. We're grateful for the position of the police department, that they've looked at this, that they did not have any opposition. And we're grateful to the city council that they've already spoken to the issue of public convenience or necessity. What I did want to do is take some time to tell you about the operator in this case, which is the Anabi family. Sam Anabi founded this company in 1991 with his first gas station. Sam was a sworn police officer with the city of Laverne. The head of security of Anabi Oil is also retired law enforcement. And the Anabi family holds numerous alcohol licenses across different states and takes their obligation to be a good retailer and the privilege of selling alcohol. They take that obligation very seriously. All of the conditions of approval in this case are agreeable to the applicant, and they'll certainly work with the police department, and this operator has a history of doing that. So we're also pleased to see that the city has determined that over many years of the Anabi family operating this store, that they are a good operator. I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have Summer from the Anabi family. I believe she's logged into the Zoom. If there's any particular questions of her, I will see if I can just take a quick way to address Commissioner Lamb-Julia, your question about the sales tax. I don't know what the sales numbers are expected to be with the alcohol. Summer might have a projection on that, but hopefully there is a good boost in sales tax revenue to the city, because the increase in sales that we expect at this store with the addition of beer and wine, it's not just the beer and wine sales, it's the other sales that come with that. So what they see at their stores is if that customer wants to make a one-stop shop, which the staff report talks about, they're getting their gas and they want to stop at one store and they want to get their essentials. And if that's a six-pack of beer and a jug of milk and some bread or whatever it might be, if they can't get the beer and wine, then they don't go in the store. If they can get the beer and the wine, hopefully they're not just buying that six-pack of beer, they're getting the milk and the bread and some soup and some charcoal, what have you. And so it's not just the alcohol that hopefully increases sales and in turn the sales tax revenue, it's those extra sales that come with it. And the C-store industry does typically see a good boost in those accompanying sales with the addition of beer and wine. So that's what we're hopeful for here. Again, all the conditions are agreeable. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Summer's available if there's any questions for her.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I'm here also.
Justin, is there any citizens to be heard?
That was Summer, I guess.
Yeah, that was
Yes,
Summer,
yeah,
correct. Yes.
yeah.
There was a question, there was a comment about how do we ensure no sales after the 2 p.m. deadline? I believe somebody was asking earlier.
Was it specific on the 2 a.m. deadline?
No.
I don't think it was a specific thing. I think it was just
Like,
more a
how do we
general
stop
like
people
enforcement.
from coming in and buying after 2 or whatever the hours of operation, since we're open 24/7. I just want to shed some light and make it clear that the coolers lock at night with keys. The POS also will not be able to scan anything after 2 p.m. You can't scan an
2
ID and you can't sell. We also have the scanning for the to ensure that everybody's over 21. You can't sell it without actually scanning somebody's ID license to verify the age. We have loss prevention that's constantly going into our stores and doing undercover stings. All our employees are trained on day one, not even in 90 days. It's all a part of the onboarding package that we have. What else can I say? We are remodeling that store, and it's going to be a beautiful new store with more lighting and inviting. Did I miss anything? No. So, any other questions anybody has for me? I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I was going to go around the room. Is there anybody online or anything, Justin? Citizens to be?
There is a hand raised from the public, but if you have any questions for the
staff.
applicant or owner, you can ask those now, and then I could take the questions after.
Okay. I'll start with you. Commissioner Sandoval, any questions for the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did have one question for the applicant. You said that you had locking coolers. Were those manually locking, or were they like electronically locking? I know that you
Currently, I think they're manually. Once we do the remodel, I'm not sure if they're going to be automatic. But
Okay,
yes, they're with
okay.
keys.
Yeah, just trying to get some reassurance on making sure that that no alcohol is being sold during those off hours. But you had also mentioned that ID scans are also in effect as well. So happy.
Correct. And then, and our IT department literally stops there's a way of not being able to scan anything alcohol.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Commissioner Lamb-Julian?
Thank you, Chair Bonzuli. So my question, if I could just get clarification, I understand that the city will get 1% or just about from the sales tax. Just from a concerned citizen being just almost hyper aware that there are several other establishments that are selling alcohol, and the store has been a fixture, and they're wanting to add it in addition to having 14 thereabouts other properties. What are we looking at for, from your SWOT analysis for the other locations that sort of revenue would generate approximately to get the buy-in from the community of this would be a good fit to add another property that has alcohol sales?
If Summer has a projection on that, I'll ask her to give it.
Thank you.
As far as a sales increase in total?
Just an
Is that the
estimate?
question?
Just an estimate to add? Yep.
I mean, based on history, I'd say 20 to 25% increase in store sales, not alcohol sales, but in overall sales increase.
Just like a boost from adding the alcohol sales, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay. Commissioner Bender?
No question.
Vice Chair Menace?
Sure, a brief question. You mentioned a remodel, and if I'm looking over the plan charts that were submitted correctly, it looks like the remodel is from the design in sheet A2 to the one on sheet EF, I think. The labeling's a bit different. And the reason I ask is because the layout of the store,
It's going to remain the same. The walk-in coolers are not moving.
no, but I noticed that the sales counter,
Will be relocated, correct?
yes. So I just wanted to confirm that the EF sheet layout 7 is going to be the post-remodel one, and that, you know, all of that stuff's still going to be visible from the street through the windows. since
Oh,
we are gonna-
100%, yes.
Yeah. Let's see. And Commissioner Lamb-Julian already addressed the net fiscal impact.
I mean, there are no conditions that the city's going to add that the ABC doesn't already hold us accountable for.
Sure, just wanted to make sure that when we're making
Yeah.
the findings that, you know, we have the information to make them.
I understand.
Let's see. I guess following up on Commissioner Sandoval's question, how much of an impact would it make for the coolers to be automatically or manually locking, given that you're training your employees and that you have, you know, sort of routine checks? Would one of the checks be, if they're manually locking, that the coolers are in fact locked, for example?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
So you mentioned that it was uncertain
Yeah.
after the remodeling whether it would be, the coolers would be automatically locking or manually locking.
Right.
And I guess one potential way to resolve that would be if the coolers are manually locking, have sort of the test of whether the coolers are manually locked be part of the loss prevention stings that you mentioned earlier, though I'm not sure how many of those you have going in at 2 a.m.
Well, perhaps a way to address that, Commissioner.
Well,
would
the
just
stings
be-
are not really for the 2 a.m. The stings are making sure we're not, oh, sorry.
Yeah, 1 sec, Summer. I didn't see it in the conditions of approval. It's there, I apologize. But one way to address that would be just a simple condition that says, during hours when alcohol sales are not permitted, the cooler doors shall be locked. And there we have an enforceable condition. That would be their policy anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess this sort of leads back to city staff. Is that the sort of thing we can and should add as a condition?
Yeah, we can add that as a condition, condition 29. We can add as condition 29 that the coolers that are containing beer and wine be locked and not be accessed. We can do that.
Be locked between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then that addresses my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Banuelos?
I don't have any other questions.
And I don't have any questions either. Is there anyone on the call? Or
Yes, there's still a hand raised from the caller with phone number ending in 5748.
Okay.
So when you're ready, please press star 6.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Anthony, and I'm a longtime resident of Pinole. I have 2 children and 2 grandchildren in the immediate area. And I just like to say, as far as the staff presentation and or that of the applicant, I guess I'll have to give you either an A+ or maybe an F, primarily because it sounded like oversell or overkill to me. I mean, Director Henham went on and on and on and on for like 10 or 15 minutes, if not close to that. And it was a redundant presentation 2 or 3 times, reiterating why they should be approved or all the benefits, but very few, if any, of the downside or the negatives, you know. And personally, I have an MBA in business, business administration, marketing, and I've done my due diligence and homework, as well as a minor in economics. And there is no way that this owner can stand up there and or her attorney to tell you that they're going to have a 20 to 25% increase in gross or net sales. And granted, that comes with a negligent insignificant amount of a 1% increase to the tax base. Basically, what's going to happen is a majority of that is going to be cannibalized unfortunately, with all the other surrounding businesses across the street, be it Bevmo, Food Max, Lucky Stores, the other liquor store, I believe there's a small liquor store, I don't know what hours they are, down past Lucky's in that shopping center below Big Five Sporting Goods, and other retailers in the area, as well as Chevron is getting some of that. They can go to Chevron and get easy access, ingress, regress, just down the street from there. Granted, it's in Richmond, but I trade that off for rather than attracting people and riffraff from other cities and around saying, well, you know, Pinole's willy-nilly, we can go in there and get boozed up or go buy our alcohol or wine and beer up until 2 o'clock. You want to meet up there, and then we can do a drug deal or something, and then we can go and do whatever we want to do to terrorize our community, not to mention the high-rise community that's going in just down the street at the old Kmart building with hundreds of new tenants, consumers, by the way, as well, that are going to go to Lucky's, as well as the children that might be access to that. And two of the current commissioners, if not at least one, was on the commission or the city council in the past, and they had this request turned down once, if not twice, or twice, if not once. And that was, like Mr. Banuelos said, it was the ingress and regress consideration close to the freeway and attracting riffraff into the area. And we already have a lot of permitted, licensed establishments in the area. So do we really need more? Because you're not raising the bar, you're lowering the bar. So if we approve this Shell station, we're going to have to, down the road, rubber stamp and approve every other station or all-night convenience store that wants to apply for an extra liquor license. And shame on the staff not knowing 7-Eleven status. That new big Vallejo 7-Eleven store, they should have that in this presentation to know what or where their stance is on the beer and liquor wine license. And just because they're going to have it or get it approved doesn't mean Shell has to, or vice versa. You know, so my suggestion to the commission is to table this till next month or your next meeting so you can look at the numbers. And as far as the police department giving you those numbers, I'd like to see the hard numbers in writing, because if you look at the police blotter and the history of crime in the area of Pinole, up and down Fitzgerald Drive, which I explained to you before, it's not hard to see that they have had problems with crime on that side of the freeway. So I don't know what Dave Hanneman is smoking or doing, but they've had several big hits at the Outback restaurant, people going in there and doing what they do and running out the side door right across the parking lot from the Shell station.
Sir, thank you. Your
problems at In-N-Out Burger with a lot of
5 minutes
crime
is up.
there and car break-ins, as well as
Sir,
strong arm robberies.
thank you for
down
your
there at
comments.
the mattress
Sir,
store.
thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for calling in on this item.
Okay, there are no other public comments.
Any other public hearing? Okay. So the public hearing will then be closed, and the commission may discuss the item amongst themselves and ask any further questions of staff. Based on everything everyone's heard, does anyone have any further comments or questions we have of staff? Commissioner Sandoval?
No other questions at this time.
Commissioner Lamb-Julian?
I would like to see what the matrix is that the police department is using to kind of clear this space for low crime rate.
Okay, so if that's something that's the majority of the commission would like, then we will probably need to table this project until next month, because I'll have to go in and get the hard data if you want the hard data. And it will be hard data. It won't be it'll be just what crimes are have been reported in those areas. So if you want that data, then we'll need to continue it because I don't have it.
You have anything else? No. Okay. Commissioner Bender?
I'm kind of curious, and maybe this is for council. When, under what conditions does ABC declare a moratorium for the 20 license types?
I don't have an answer to that for you. Unfortunately, I can provide that to you, but I don't know that that has an impact on the current approval, which has already been made by ABC for the purpose of this applicant.
Right.
But we can certainly provide that further information for your consideration.
Yeah, okay. So I was curious, not that it applies to this application, but like San Pablo actually is under a moratorium. No other questions?
Vice Chair Menace?
I guess my question would be with regards to hard data, assuming we can get it and it's brought back to the commission, how different would it be from what we have in front of us right now?
Well, right now you just have the police saying that it's okay for this business to be there. So you would actually, the information that I'd be bringing would actually be what crimes were reported along that corridor. So you'd actually have the hard data showing what they recommended.
And that corridor, would that just be right in front of the Shell station? Would it be all of Fitzgerald?
Well, it would all depend on how they would extrapolate the information. I would say that I would probably ask for the data currently for 1401 Fitzgerald, if there has been any type of crime at that location, or if it has been just in the general area of 1401 Fitzgerald.
I think that's all my questions for now, then.
Commissioner Benuelos, anything further?
Well, I would think that the data that staff would get from the police department, the reason, you don't have is probably, in the file somewhere, which is not, it's not like it's not hearsay. It's
Right.
based on past experience the police has recorded.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making it up.
No.
And so to me, kind of going on about, well, I want to see data, I think it's kind of irrelevant, really. You always hear about things going on in Fitzgerald, and I guess you could nitpick all that to death. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I have a kind of a side question is that, city council's already determined that this is the
PCN, the public convenience and necessity.
Yeah, nuisance. So I know in the past we'd ruled, when I was on the council, we'd ruled on several things like that from time to time. I'm just kind of wondering about the sequence. It's kind of, I feel like the decision's already been made, and we're just kind of doing a little land use thing. Shouldn't it have been the other way around?
No, the local agency, once there's an over-concentration, it's the local agency that has to make the determination whether or not they would like any more any more type of alcohol sales within the community. If they also have the opportunity to deny the public convenience or necessity as well, which in case you would not see the conditional use permit. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have to have that as part of the approval process. So in this case, they approved it. They approved the PCN. So that's why you're seeing the conditional use permit.
Okay. I was just kind of checking because it kind of there's kind of an element of cart before the horse with that, but at the same time, I guess it's just the process more than anything else.
I mean, all they've decided it's approve the public convenience, right? That doesn't mean it's given in the conditional use approval. It's just this particular.
Yeah, it's another category within the process.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I have anything else on that. I was just it's kind of just randomly saying stuff. So.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I guess, Commissioner Julian, if you'd like to get more data, I guess we could you could propose a motion to defer to the next meeting, right? We would take a vote on that if you'd like to hear more information.
Just to clarify, I just would like to have a better understanding of what the matrix the police department uses so we can explain it to the community. This is what it is. The threshold is 5 robberies or something like that, like the ABC has for that. So I guess and then also I'm concerned if we don't have that matrix that clear path, when 7-Eleven opens up and they're going to apply for it or they don't apply for it, we're just going to come up with this same question again, and just in an effort to make it more transparent for the community of what this looks like moving forward. Because if we move this forward with Shell, right, and we have 7-Eleven coming up, what does that look like? So we have something to gauge on, and just for better understanding for the community. So I would like to motion to table it and have it brought up to the next meeting until we get that data.
Well, I'm gonna ask for a clarification on that. Do you want data for 1401 Fitzgerald, or do you want data for all of Fitzgerald Drive from Appian to the freeway?
I guess just more so getting the data of what they're using to come up with the conclusion. What is the matrix that they're gauging of this is a low incident or not enough crime has happened? It's just like, how did they get to that conclusion?
Okay, so
Versus pinpointing it to a property or a corridor, just something so then we can have that understanding moving forward with other developers.
well, so let me see if I understand this, because I'm gonna have to relay this. If the commission approves it, I want to make sure I'm understanding what the motion is. So you want me to go to the police department, motion to receive data from the police department regarding crimes that have been committed within the Fitzgerald corridor, and that you want to you want to know what their threshold it would be for what a significant increase in crime would be. Meaning, i.e., if there are, and I'm just going to say 30 incidents along the corridor, none of them happen at 1401 Fitzgerald, but you want to see, and so you want to know why they said that it wouldn't create you want like a percentage, or you want like a number of crimes, you want a number of.
It's the wording says the police department report the proposed establishment would not be expected to add crime to the area, right? And then the staff response is police departments review their proposed business plans. The police department has not raised any objections. So there must be some measure that the police department has defined for whatever the area they consider, as well as whatever thresholds, right? So
yeah, I just want to make sure, because I don't want to come
Yeah.
back a month from now and you guys don't like the information and we continue it again for another month for additional information. So that's why I want to make sure it's clarified before I go. That's all. I'm not trying to. I just want to make sure I'm going for the right info.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems like you just have to clarify the metric then, whether it's a number of things happening or a distance from, from the Shell station, or what are they starting from?
a certain type of crime, what's the radius of the area? Is it?
And there'll be the various levels of, crime for that, but it's got to be right around, the immediate place, it seems to me.
Commissioner Vice Chair Menace?
Sure. I just wanted to highlight in particular, going back to page 3 and page 4 of the staff report, subpoint 3 under the conditional use permit review process, it says, the extent to which the crime reporting district in which applicant is located exceeds the average for crime reporting district subject to a jurisdiction of the Pinole Police Department. And then the staff response says a formal review by the police department has determined that crime reporting for a district does not exceed the average for crime reporting districts. And the police department did not raise any objections or concerns related to alcohol sales request. So in terms of the letter of what information needs to be given, That's true. Basically, it says crime reported doesn't need to be above the average. It's not above the average, but it's not clear what the district is exactly. It's not clear how many crimes were in the district, how many crimes were in the city at large, what the ratio was. It's just, it didn't rise above a certain level and no other detail. So I think part of it is just that point 3 is sort of unclear by design, just because the way that it's built is basically, does it meet this threshold? Yes, no, but it doesn't talk about the details around the threshold. It doesn't say, like, what is the average for crimes? Is it really high? Is it really low? We don't know that. Is it based on what year? We don't know that either. It's just for the district, and which district exactly, I'm assuming it's just the district, which includes 1401, but we don't know the size of that district. It's a beat.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of saying the same thing.
Right.
Mr. Julian, I'm Julian saying, it's just a book for the clarification of what Dave, Planning Manager Hannum is looking for. Is there any?
Right. I want to narrow down more specifically what part of the report more clear data would be useful in. Because I think that focusing in on the response to point 3 of the conditional use permit, the extent to which the crime reporting district, et cetera, that allows for a more focused response saying, we'd like more details on exactly how many crimes were committed in that district, and then a comparison so we can calculate the average and so we can see what kinds of crimes were committed. So more details rather than just saying, oh yeah, it's above X threshold. I'm not sure if we can ask that because technically speaking, the condition is just, does it meet this yes-no criteria? And it meets that yes-no criteria. But if we're looking for more data, it seems like that would be the point at which data would be added.
Okay. Before we move on, Commissioner Manager, do you have anything to regard to the motion on the table?
I just wanted to add that I kind of agree with what's been said.
Yeah, I think you need to be talking to the mic a little bit more.
That's right. Thank you. I just wanted to sort of add that I kind of agree with some of the sentiments from my fellow commissioners. This does not exceed the average crime reporting, blah, blah, blah. It's very nebulous. And just as a plain citizen, when you look at the crime statistics that are issued every biweekly, every whatever, monthly, 1,400, 1,500, admittedly, that's sort of nebulous, but 1,400 and 1,500 Fitzgerald keeps popping up in those reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Also, I would just like to say, I think it would be more appropriate if it was all of Fitzgerald running from Appian to the city limit, because it is one contiguous neighborhood.
True.
There's no natural divides in terms of the commercial uses on that property or those properties along that street.
Okay.
I just was going to point out procedurally, we have a motion on the table.
I know.
It hasn't been seconded. We went out of order just a little bit in having discussion before the second, but if that motion stands and it hasn't been amended, we would need a second and there could be further discussion.
Yeah. Would anyone second the motion that Commissioner Lam Julian proposed about basically deferring to the next meeting based off getting more information on the crime data?
I'll second the motion.
So I think we need to take a vote now on the actual motion to defer, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify before we move to the vote, is the text of the motion basically going to be continuing it so that staff can give a more detailed response to A3 in the conditional use permit requirement? Or is it going to be phrased differently? Because right now I'm not quite sure how the motion is structured.
Well, what would you?
Okay, to clarify, I am making a motion to ask staff to reach out to the police department and requesting what is their matrix and how in determining the different levels of crime in their formal review, and then giving us the data for, like Commissioner Bender stated, all of Fitzgerald, so then we have an accurate picture of what's going on, so we can make a informed decision.
From Appian to the city boundary.
So yeah,
on the
to the
south
city
end.
boundary, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions on that motion? Any clarifications?
I guess my question to staff would be, how does that motion interact with A3? Does it interact with it at all, or is it a completely different thing?
I mean, it will, I mean, we're going to get the police gave a general statement based on their averages, so we'll have the data that you have. So, I mean, that we get, so that you'll be able to, I'll be able to look at the averages, and we'll be doing the calculations and doing all that. But it's gonna come down to, it's like the threshold. What threshold? I mean, if there are no incidents at the location at 1401 Fitzgerald, and there is, most of the actions across the street at Target and Bevmo and all of those, and on the street, you're gonna have to come to that conclusion as well if we're including all of Fitzgerald, because, and that you guys will have to take a look at when you get the data. So I'm just going to be getting the data. It'll be in reference to A3. So it's that finding. So if you feel that after we've got the data that you feel that finding is not met, then you'll make a finding that finding wasn't met, and you'll vote accordingly with the project.
And the other questions or comments, Vice Chair Menace?
No, I think that answers my question on that particular point on the motion.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions on the commission? Are there any public?
Just a further point of clarification, Justin, thank you for pointing this out. As I understand, the motion is to continue the current agenda item to seek the further information. We also need to state that the date and the time of the next hearing that would be continued to, for purposes of public notice.
I think that would be, what's the timing to be able to get the data? I mean, the next meeting is January.
Well, if you approve the schedule, the next meeting will be January 8th.
That's the point. So a time between the holidays, that's a good point. If we have an approved schedule, how do you pick a date?
So you can state and amend your motion to continue it to the next scheduled date, conditioned upon approval of by the board later today, but state the date and the time of the meeting.
Is that enough? Sorry, but is that enough time with the police department to get? I mean, January 8th, theoretically be January 8th. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure I'll be able to get at least the raw data, so that we can take a look at that. So I'll be talking with them tomorrow.
Will that data, if it's raw data, is that going to generate the need for some interpretation by staff?
It could. I'll be talking with PD. I mean, PD, usually when I ask for data from the police department, I usually get of what the data is, usually there's a they tell me what they're giving me, so to speak, and then that will be included in the next staff report as part of the project.
Okay. Okay. So I think, where'd that thing go? That's A3. I'm trying to find the actual number again. Finding. Here's the finding. There you go. So I think the motion that's on the table is to defer initial use permit CUP 23-04, the Anabi Shell Station alcohol sales use permit, to the next scheduled planning commission, which would be potentially January 8th, 2024, with the intent to find out more information on, it's really relative to the police department crime statistics for that area, specifically Fitzgerald, from Appian to the city's boundary, which I think is the southern edge of the city.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to do anything else, or just roll call? Just. Okay. Is there any public comment?
There's no comment right now.
Okay.
We won't have to he doesn't have to reopen
Confirm.
hearing for this though, right?
Not the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay. I guess roll call. Planning Manager Hannum.
Commissioner Bender,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian,
Yes.
Commissioner Benuelos,
Yes.
Vice Chair Menes,
Yes.
Chair Benzuli.
And yes.
All right, motion carries 6-0 to continue this item to the next regularly scheduled meeting, if approved on January 8th, 2024.
Good. More or less. Okay.
And to have all the necessary police information as well. Let's not forget that as part of the motion.
It's
I'm just saying that it will be, the motion approved, but it's for the next meeting, so.
okay. The next item on the agenda is item F, old business. There is none. The next item on the agenda is item G, new business, which is the Planning Commission regular meeting schedule of 2024, which is reviewing and adopting the Planning Commission regular meeting schedule dates in 2024.
All right, so, and you have the schedules of times and places and dates. So if there are any questions or any other items that you want to add to this or subtract from this or whatever, we are doing the 2 meetings a month, again, to just have some flexibility within the scheduling based on when applications come in. And so, except during the holidays and where holidays are Mondays that interrupt. So with that, I see questions. Raphael, do you?
Yes, just one question. Any particular reason why the November meeting is 11/25 rather than an earlier week?
I think Veterans Day is in there.
Yeah, it's usually 30 days. Because the Monday, I think, is Memorial Day. The November 11th, I think, is Memorial Day in 2024.
It's Veterans Day, but theoretically it could be November 4th, or it could be the 18th, theoretically.
Oh, okay.
Would it be possible to do the 4th or the 18th?
Yeah, if you want to add that in, yeah.
In lieu of the 25th?
I was thinking in lieu of, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because, potential conflicts with Thanksgiving and all that.
Okay, so you want to take off the 25th, and you want to add 11,
18.
11, 18. Okay.
Yeah, that seems simplest.
Okay.
So I guess that's a motion, I suppose?
Well, that's what if there's anybody else with any comments. Yeah, are there any other questions or comments on the schedule?
Has there been a provision for a joint city council planning commission meeting yet, or is that just going to come later? If that happens?
That will come later. There hasn't, at this point, there hasn't. It's not included in the schedule.
Okay.
And that would probably come on a Tuesday, on a council meeting day, not a planning commission day.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
For the design review, what was it, April and May is what we're looking at, extra meetings? Is that right? Or that's just going to be?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And, Commissioner Sandoval, anything? Cool. All right. So, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the Planning Commission regular meeting schedule for 2024, with the exception of moving the November 25th to the November 18th?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 Planning Commission regular meeting schedule with the exception of adjusting the meeting for November from Monday 11/25/24 to Monday 11/18/24 at the same time.
And I'll second that.
Cool. Please, Planning Manager Hedem, vote, please.
Sure. Commissioner Bender?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandoval?
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb Julian?
Yes.
Commissioner Benuelos?
Yes.
Vice Chair Menes?
Yes.
Chair Benzuli?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
On the schedule? Yeah.
I was just saying, is there any public comment? Because this is a Brown Act item, technically speaking.
No hands raised for this item.
Item H, the City Planners Commission Report. Item number 1, the Community Engagement Opportunities, Forums, Workshops, and Town Hall Meetings. I know we brought this up last meeting.
Right, I'll just go ahead and start. At our last meeting, Commissioner Lamb Julian wanted to add an item onto the agenda to talk about potential workshops and community engagement for the Planning Commission and planning. I'll just say planning in general. I'll make an assumption there. And so tonight, I'm going to turn the floor over to her to kind of explain what she really wants to do. And then at that point, the commission has the ability to do a number of different things. If they want to act on that item, they could do a little they could add a little subcommittee, or they can direct staff to even have more information in what other cities are doing regarding this item. Or so there's a lot of different alternatives that you can have, but I think it's a discussion that the commission needs to have, and then I'll chime in when you have questions of staff. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lamb Julian.
I think it would be a good idea to have staff kind of check around what other cities, municipalities are doing, or even just following suit what we did with the sustainability fellow and the workshops and the pop-ups that we're doing to building up on that momentum and kind of that framework that they started it. The community is more engaged and they're going to be more invested. So just how can we adopt that and take those best practices with what we're able to do in this department to be able to do the outreach, rather just popping up at the farmer's market or just an actual little mini meeting, and we can talk, staff can look at what we can do there, but to make it clear what Planning Commission does, what projects have we completed, the status on the projects right now, and then get the community's feedback of just possibly what else they would like to see in their city and their thoughts and feelings about what we're doing and what we're making.
Anybody have any thoughts or? Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I think it probably would be best to see if the commission can direct the city staff to do a lot of this outreach in conjunction with the Planning Commission, to see if we can tap into some of the city's resources to see if there's any sort of workshops or pop-ups or something like that we would be able to do. And I think that would be a great idea for people that have questions about what's going on in terms of planning. And it's not, people still have questions, and I think that those people should get answers and clarity in whatever way that we can.
But you see, both you see this as kind of a staff-led thing to at least do the initial data outreach, and then that's something based off what you're hearing then from other communities and other organizations, bring that back here for us to then act on, or presumably like get involved in or to attend things.
Just asking staff to see what our options are to do the engagement, and then to lift up what Commissioner Sandoval was stating of just reaching out to the city as a whole, since this is kind of more of a city thing, to get the community involved and get their feedback, so then we can make better informed decisions.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there can be a number of different ways to do this. One way is that because right now the way we kind of outreach or whatever, right now all of our current projects and stuff are on our website. So if they want to see what's happening, I'm just going to give you what we have so far out there right now. We have each project has a website. I don't know if most of our current projects are still up there. In terms of what got approved, and if I'm correct, Justin, yeah. So in terms of the big 5 projects or 6 projects that have gone through, those are all up on the website right now. In terms of current projects that we're working on, such as maybe the objective development design standards, the safety element, housing elements. I mean, at this point, I mean, if the commission, and I'll have to check with my higher ups to make sure I can do this, is to get out there and basically sit in a booth and answer questions from the public out there. Unless you're wanting to actually have planning commission workshops, which we would have to enter into the date where people can come and ask questions of the commissions on certain projects. We did do these during the COVID time when the projects were coming in. We did schedule public workshops for those particular projects. They were all virtual, of course. So we did do that. However, now that we are not virtual, that we can, I mean, I was probably going to be scheduling a public workshop for the new Pinole Shores project, similar to what we did last time. So, I mean, if that's kind of, I mean, if I just want to make sure, are we just talking about just going to pop-ups and stating what planning does, or what planning does, what the commission does, what those types of things? They'd probably be better more in a workshop or that type of stuff, a planning 101 type thing. We try to do that with the, but if we're scheduling workshops and those types of things, we'll have to get dates on calendars. And if there's like a quarterly thing that we can do, I'd probably prefer to do it in the chambers so that we can have, people want to come to the chambers or the senior center or that type of place. I mean, that's, communities have done those.
I mean, maybe the ask right now is a list of this, what we're currently doing. It's like the website, the projects, and maybe possibly reach out to the 5 or 6. I'm just throwing it.
Well, most of the cities do it in one form or another. They either have public workshops, they update their websites, and it's usually project driven in most cases. Where if there's a big project and there's community involved, then they have workshops for them. They usually have, in some cases, they'll have, it's the full commission at either a commission meeting or a workshop per se. They could do a planning 101 just when big projects are coming forward, such as big general plan amendments, specific plan amendments, those types of things. They usually start out with a public outreach of maybe 3 or 4 different public meetings to get people's input on what they can do. But it sounds like more what I'm hearing is basically that you would like staff to have more public workshops on different projects, or that a lot of projects I can't give information on because they're not of, I can't tell you everything that's going on because there's no application. I mean, I can only tell you what comes forward through the application process and that. But we can do general information in terms of, what's a specific plan and what's a general plan and those types of things. If the community wants to come out and do something like that, we can throw a workshop somewhere or a pop-up it's mainly done more in workshops than doing pop-ups and those types of things at farmers markets, but they're usually done in bigger venues. Raphael, you have a question?
Sure. I wanted to go ahead and tie this back a bit to the city's communication and engagement plan, because I went ahead and did a bit of digging around on the city's website, because I remembered that got adopted back in 22. And most of it doesn't really apply to this, but there was one part that seems like it did, the idea of a residence academy. And I know that there was sort of an action step to establish a resident academy and create a page within the city's website, recruit a class, whatnot. But it doesn't seem like there's really been any particular progress on that item. Would that be something that the Planning Commission could sort of have happen within the parts of the city that are within its purview? It's obviously not going to be able to cover all the city, because the proper residence academy would need to cover more things like, what's going on with the city as a whole, things that don't fall within the commission's jurisdiction. But it seems like a smaller scale thing that just covers stuff that does fall within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction might be something that we could do, maybe.
So is it more like, are you looking for a page on the website, or are you looking for, out to get out there in the public? I mean, is it something that, where you want to do more workshop stuff oriented, or because most of that's mainly just updating the web page. And we do have a online, I don't know if it's online, the Planning Questions website, or that's just more of an email, isn't it? More than a actual page, right, Justin?
Yeah, Yeah, I think we're working on setting up some additional information, but I think on the page currently, it has pretty general information about like what types of permits are like under planning.
Yeah.
But we are like building out additional information as well
Yeah.
with our website updates.
Okay, yeah. So, because right now we do have like if people want to ask questions, planning questions, there's actually a planning questions email that we have that if people want to ask questions and staff, we monitor that. Justin and I both monitor that, and then we get questions, and then we get answers to those questions. So, I mean, there is some stuff that we are doing right now in terms of that, but I want to make sure in terms of public involvement, are you looking at more workshops to explain projects? Are you looking for, just informational workshops of what you do and how you do it? Because I think that those have to be planned, maybe quarterly or something like that, and have to take a look at about that.
What I was thinking.
Hold on, sorry, you, Commissioner. Sorry, Vice Chairman. He was about to speak.
So to clarify, it would be more of an update and review of the projects that the city has completed or working on in the different stages. My thinking would be this would be a really good opportunity for the developers to do a quick fact sheet to say, hey, we're in your neighborhood, we're building this, do. So it's a quick informational engagement for the community. And then while we have them engaged, they can give us feedback about other ideas that they have for businesses that they would like to see in the community. And the reason I'm suggesting it be a community engagement and not defer people to the website is to address the digital divide, and not everybody really has access to computers and the knowledge. And then just the verbiage is just to be able to meet people where they're at and show them what the community is doing and the direction that we're heading in to get their feedback and their buy-in so we can just keep thriving. But just really meeting people where they're at, and then giving them the information of just, this is what we're doing.
Okay, so sorry, let me have a quick question. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Menace. So you're more concerned about the information getting out there, the stuff that's on the website or is done through project-specific workshops or things, getting that information to people that don't have access to the technology?
Just giving them another avenue to access that information, because I've had several community members state that they can't make it to the meetings. And I understand the website is getting built out and they're refreshing it, but just it would be a good opportunity for us, the city, or what have you, to engage the people saying, hey, they're seeing a lot of construction happening on, and they don't have a basis of where it is, what phase it is in, and how much longer this is going to impact their life. And then they would also have an opportunity to give the feedback of what businesses they would like to see come to the city. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to understand what direction we would like staff to pursue. I think there are a number of things that they're doing, but most of it is probably electronic or project-based. And I'm trying to, if we just want to try and do the same thing, but more in person, if that's what you're kind of gearing towards, for the people that can't come to the meetings on Mondays or don't have access to the website.
Right.
There is like a, workshop once every quarter that says this is really what's going on. If you don't have access to technology, we're going to go over this, that, and the other. I think that's kind of what you're
Yes, gearing towards like a planning review of just going over the projects. This would be a good opportunity. Developers, they can do their fact sheet of what their projects are. And then if they had questions, we're like, well, you can write this, send an email to right here, or you can, if you need to, write it right now and then have a little comment box to be able to help address their concerns and questions.
Vice Chair Menace, you were going to comment?
Sure. I think that the thing I'm talking about might be sufficiently different than the thing that Commissioner Lamb-Julia is discussing, that it might be worth setting it to the side for the moment until we're done voting on that motion and then discussing it further. Because what I'm talking about is linking it back to the resident academy idea that the city has as part of its communication and engagement plan, and that would be more complicated, I think, than simply a quarterly look back and in-person sort of workshop thing. So that seems like two different things to me.
what we could do is that if we could assign, the commission can assign a subcommittee of 2 commissioners. It's within section 2.40. And the planning commission because I want to make sure I work with the commission to get what we want. So what I'd like to do is work with a couple of commissioners so that we could go over everything we have right now currently, what we think we're going to do, what we want to do for the rest for in the future, i.e. for these project fact sheets or those types of things. I'd really like to sit down with the commissioners, 2 commissioners, so that I can get an idea of what, because then I can gather all of it. We can all look at it, and then we can bring it back to the commission based on a recommendation from the committee saying that, based on the look, this is what we want to do. Boom, 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 boom. Instead of just shotgun approaching it and bringing it back. So that's what I'd recommend, that we can just an ad hoc, just a quick ad hoc meeting group, 2 commissioners, so it doesn't violate the Brown Act or it's not a standing committee. It's just a quick, probably 2 or 3 meetings, so that we can get an understanding of what we want to present to the commission as a whole, so that we can move forward on that.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have to take it up the ladder. So everything's got to go up the ladder. So I just want to make sure that we all have an understanding of what we're doing, and we've got a recommendation from the commission, so that when I can go up the ladder to council, my staff, city manager, so we can make sure that we know that we have a direction and we have a good layout of what we're going to do.
Presumably the resources and the staff to actually do this.
Sure. Yeah.
It'll have to be that way because I really seriously doubt you're going to get a developer that's going to be interested in talking about what their contractual agreements in the future are going to be.
Well, I think they're looking more for. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think they're just looking for what's happening. How long is it going to pick? And stuff. I mean, so I think we can. But I'd really like to sit down with a couple of commissioners and show them what we have. Maybe there's another thing where I can work with the developers, say, hey, look, just give me a fact sheet of where you're at in the process, 20, 30, 40, 50% complete. When do you think you're going to be completed? When do you think you're going to start? Those types of things. We can work on that. But I'd like to sit down just to make sure that we have the full, this is what we want to do. This is what we're bringing back to the commission to vote on to do. And then we can go up that way. That's how I'd like to structure it, if we can.
I think we need to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
That's right. I was just going to say it should be for the next meeting. We'll put an item on the agenda.
If I understand the discussion, there's been some direction to staff to find some further information. But at the moment, it sounds like what's being asked is to set a future agenda item, not to discuss the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't actually create the ad hoc committee because that isn't agendized, but we can agendize it. There's not really a dedicated future agenda items things on here, so I'm not sure when we're allowed to do that.
Well, staff would put it on communications, or would put it under the communication item on the agenda, so that we have a heading. We have enough headings to where we could fit it in.
Okay. So it sounds like no, we don't make a motion because it's not an agenda.
It's not agendized.
So it'll appear on the next agenda. Okay, but I think that's enough. There's enough on there now. Okay.
And I have a little more direction. So I have a little more direction of just kind of for the next meeting to bring as part of what we have right now and some of those types of things. So,
are there any following comments for item number 1, the community engagement opportunities?
Just want to make sure that, staff is noting the community engagement plan and the resident academy stuff and linking into that because it's possible that some stuff has been done towards that at the city level that isn't publicly facing yet. So you might be able to ask around and say, oh, hey, we actually have been working towards this particular thing. And then you'd be able to report back to us and saying, actually, the city was thinking about having a planning Citizens Academy thing that included some planning commission stuff in X and Y, or no, they weren't thinking about that or whatever.
Okay. Okay. Any other further comments? Okay. Move on to item H.2, the City Planners Commissioner Report.
Okay. So I can report on a couple of projects as part of the reporting process. Met with the applicant, the developers for Pinole Vista, and so we're moving forward with their affordable housing agreement as well as their parcel map as part of their project. So we're moving forward with that. Hopefully we'll get that all wrapped up and we'll have the affordable agreement to the council in February. And and then they're looking to, they still really don't have a schedule of when they're going to start construction. Interest rates have really hit them hard. So in terms of financing, so they're hoping some of that will calm down a little bit here, but they do have one more year on their project as well as an additional extension they can apply for later on. So they've got a little bit of time. In terms of the BCRE project, they have submitted for the grading permit. So they're working towards their project. We don't have a construction timeline at this point, but we're working with them to try to get an idea of when they'll be starting construction. Appian Village has finished kind of like their rough grade and just kind of secured the property for the winter. They'll probably be back in the spring with their final parcel map, as well as because they've done all their demo, and I think they've submitted some of their offsite improvement plans as well to be reviewed. So they're moving forward a little bit, but in terms of construction schedule, we're not sure. It'll be sometime either probably mid to late next year. So of course, Vista Woods is looking to get a temporary occupancy on wings A and B. And so we're working with them to get that going. Of course, you see the frame and stuff going up for Saha's project. So they have poured their foundation and they're working on their framing for their project. Pinole Shores 2, we have sent the contracts for the environmental to get signed. We've also are working with we just got the new set of plans, and so we're reviewing that project. So we probably won't, the commission probably won't see that project till probably sometime in May. And so in terms of that, we're working on the objectives development design standards. We completed the subcommittee, or the ad hoc committee completed the changes in the specific plan as well as the Old Town design guidelines, and we'll be looking at the zoning ordinance next. And so we're hopefully going to be able to put some things together to kind of like get in front of you guys to take a look at for informational purposes here in the next couple months. So we'll be moving forward with that. We'll also be moving forward with the housing, the safety element, and the environmental justice element here in the next after the new year. Excuse me. So we'll be working on those, and so we're also working on the Parklit program. I'll be in the process this month of trying to set up meetings with some of the restaurants in the downtown area, as well as some of the other eateries along the San Pablo, Appian Way, and San Pablo corridors. So they'll be busy doing that. So it's a busy winter. So get those things going. So that's all I have tonight, unless you have any specific questions on any projects that I can try and answer.
Have there been specific vendors that are interested in the Parklet program? Or are you not at liberty to kind of discuss specifics?
No, not right. I mean, they're like all the restaurants are kind of interested in what we're looking at proposing. We don't know which way we're going to go because we really don't have the standards set in place at this point. So basically, we're asking the restaurants or the eateries and all the food vendor people, what do you want to see in the program? How would you like all like a certain form that everybody has to meet, or do you want to create your own? So I mean, would you rather do a parklet or outdoor dining, which is on the sidewalks or out in the street? So there's a number of questions that we're asking, and we're trying to put them together so that when we take it back to the council, that at least they have an idea of what the restaurants are thinking about in terms of the program, and if the program is feasible, or is it just going to be an update of our ordinance, our ordinance right now, what we have for outdoor dining. So hopefully we'll have a lot more information to go for that in the next couple of months. So,
okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Have you looked at the El Cerrito, the San Pablo Avenue specific area plan that El Cerrito did?
I haven't looked at that plan area yet, so.
It's a little bit more global than what you're talking about, but there are a lot of interesting ideas in how they designate the zones along the sidewalk in terms of amenities and pedestrian walking, and how you can bleed into the sidewalk essentially from commercial properties, and which could be taken to the next level and actually become parklets.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look.
But it's a really well-written specific area plan.
San Pablo?
Yeah, San Pablo Avenue and the El Cerrito San Pablo Avenue plan. They had originally done a joint venture with the city of Richmond, so got to Richmond, and Richmond had their own version several years ago, but they just kind of finalized their own version of it.
Okay,
so
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, it's really, well, Elster is pretty good about cranking out the specific area plans and the process they go through and the level of what would you call that? Level of detail, level of importance, just it's very sophisticated.
Okay, I'll take a look.
It's a good thing to look at.
Okay.
I've just got a brief question, because I think I missed part of what you were saying. When you're talking about interest rates have affected financing for, I didn't catch which project that was?
Pinole Vista.
Okay, for Pinole Vista, as opposed to, BCRE, Appian Village, et cetera. Got it. Thanks.
And is that the only one, or is that just the one that stands out that you know of?
Well, that's just the one. That's just the one that's commented on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure interest rates have affected everybody.
Yeah,
in
I'd say
construction.
too. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions for Planning Manager Adam? Great. Item I, communications. Does anybody have any?
Chair, before we move on, I do see a hand raised online.
For the planning picture report? Okay.
Yeah. Person with the phone number ending in 5748. Please press *6 when you're ready. Okay. Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question on the planning commissioner's report, or that is the planning director's report. Can you give us an update on the new business and existing business situation with regard to Nick the Greek's property in Trader Joe's Shopping Center, which was, I guess, the old Yogurtland property? What stage of permitting or opening, when is their opening estimated to be there at that site, as well as the situation with the next door neighbor there, the big empty restaurant property, which was the old Happy Sashimi, and what the status is there, as well as the situation over at the old Uptown Courtyard, or the new Uptown Courtyard, right next to the old Bank of Pinole building, kitty corner to in downtown Pinole, where I guess the owner was literally in tears last month, or at the last city council meeting, asking the help from the city council and the planning commission to extend her some kind of variance consideration with regard to the garbage dump bins, because they're making her jump through literally hoops, if not the bins, to take care of her own garbage there, which she had an issue with, amongst other things. She's barely surviving there in that corner, and I think we should offer and give her more support for all she's put into that corner. And if you have the latest update on the anything new on the Safeway Tara Hills build-out project. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
So in terms of the Yogurtland, I don't have an update for that. I'm not sure when they're moving. Normally that'll be the shopping centers if they can find new tenants. As of now, we haven't heard of any new tenants that are looking in that area. Regarding the
I think you was talking about the Nick the Greek.
Yeah, that I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening at that at that location at this point?
I think they're working on building permits for it.
Oh, is that what they're doing?
Coordinating
Okay.
with
Yeah.
our building division.
Okay. So thanks, Justin. Yeah. So they're, oh yeah, because they had some TIs that they were doing with that. So yeah, they are doing some tenant improvements to that building. They're working on those, and so when it's going through the building department, so it'll when that's completed, the building department will be doing that. In regards to the Terra Hills projects, from what we know, that the owner of the Terra Hill, or at least what we would call the Safeway parcels, they are working on a plan. We don't know when that plan is going to come to fruition, but they are working on a plan for the property. They are, from my understanding, they are working with the tenants of the other buildings and looking for new leases, but I'm not sure. I'm not quite. They haven't told us where they are in the process. We just know that they're doing those things. And so when they submit the plan, then it'll come before the Planning Commission as well. So we're working on that. Regarding the Uptown Yard, there are some easements in that property that. Some drainage easements, there's some parking easements, there's a lot of easements that are on those properties that are currently owned. So we have been working with Raquel over the last couple of years on how we can look at relieving some of those issues. They did move a garbage area that used to be there over to kind of in front, well, I'll say in front of the property, but over by King Valley. It's on the Fernandez side, on the Pear Bistro side of that got moved. And so there is a little bit. There are, I think, a couple of other recycling places, some small cans for the rest of the businesses, and you have to remember her business is an event. It's an event center. It's pretty much what it is. And so she's had, I think, 2 events so far, 2 or 3. From what I've understood, they've all been good events. They've been a positive thing. And so she's still working on getting events for that for her area. But we are continuing to work. I know she's got to work with Public Works on those easements, and a lot of those easements cover like the whole parking lot. So there's a whole. It's not as simple as it sounds, because there'd have to be a lot of unraveling and raveling back in. So because there's a lot of things that are attached and where the property lines sit and all that kind of stuff. So, but we are working with her and trying to make sure of where those easements are and regarding her building. So, in terms of that, the Safeway, Happy Shishimi, Terra Hills, I think that
was it as well.
Yeah. Which one?
That was it. I think that was
it. Okay. Yeah. So again, and we have been getting a lot more. We've been getting a lot of interest for uses at 890 San Pablo. So we've been getting a lot of interest on that property. What could be done there? We're getting a lot of interest on some little vacant lots along San Pablo. And so, yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people are inquiring of what can happen, but there's nothing that's been cement, or there's nothing that can come across the application desk so that I can report out. But so,
Okay.
That's all I have on those.
Are there any other questions or raised hands? Great. Moving on to communications. Are there any new communications? No? Oh, Commissioner Lam Julian.
Hi there, commissioners. I was able to help drop off meals at RotaCare, which is a free health clinic in San Pablo that serves West Contra Costa. And some of our community members do go there for services, and they just to get their feedback of just having to go out there for services and their feedback on their community. Then I also was at Interact, and I think the students there for their work at the tree lighting ceremony, and they gave me their thoughts and feelings of what they think should come into Pinole next, what next business they're excited to see. And then I had a ride along with City Planner Hannum at all of the city facilities, and so understanding what their current states are and just kind of where they're at and just where we are at as a community. That's it. I'm complete.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other communications they'd like to bring forth? Vice Chair Menace?
Sure, this isn't really something that I've done, but more just a communication update for the people. I wanted to remind people that tomorrow there's going to be the senior sort of food thing at the senior center for people over 55, low income. You need to provide proof of age and residence, but it's a bit more thorough than the produce thing that was today. Just figured that'd be worth highlighting.
Okay, thank you.
And would this be the point where we bring up the agenda item, or is that sort of read?
The what?
What agenda item?
The future agenda item to discuss creating a subcommittee, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's already in place. Yeah, I think that would be.
Yeah, we can make they need to make a motion to allow that to happen, right?
No, you don't
No.
have a formal motion. Staff was directed in that discussion.
Yeah. It'll be on the next agenda.
Great, just wanted to make sure we didn't need to do anything there. That's all for communications.
Anyone else? Great. Item J, next meeting will be our Planning Commission regular meeting on January 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.